As Concorla, the commitment in this government in the area of mental health is questionable. It's questionable to say the least, because the absence of any mention in the last 48 hours, any mention on the issue of mental health in the budget. Not one mention, and it's been quite telling. Not one mention of disability, and not one mention of mental health. And it really goes as far to tell us what your priorities are and your type of recovery, leaving people behind. Because your instinct for self-preservation kicks in at the cost of mental health and the most vulnerable people in society. The health allocation yesterday made no announcement on disability or mental health. Now, that's a sharp contrast to the commitments you made prior to 2011. Sharp contrast. In terms of mental health, we have a real cause of concern, because every single year since 2011 in Asconcorla, the government has broken its commitment to deliver on a commitment for ring-fence funding of €35 million for the development of a community mental health service, the virtual ward in the community. Hasn't happened. Asconcorla, last year 500 people died dead by suicide in this country. This government have cut mental health consistently. My own home county, an underspend of €6 million in mental health. These people smirk at me for raising the cause of disability and mental health. How dare you? How dare you? You attacked the most vulnerable. The evidence speaks for itself. In every single budget from 2011, 12, 13, 14, and this year, you cut the budget, underspent, 2,500 staff you failed to recruit in order to ensure that the transition from acute mental health into the community setting would happen. This crisis that exists out there is of your making. There isn't one mention, not one mention in the documentation that has been submitted over the last 48 hours on Budget 2016 about the issue of mental health. That is an indictment on this government. Yesterday's press conference, the resultant exchange between Minister Varadkar, Junior Minister Lynch, and Sarah Burke, I want to read into the record. Sarah Burke says, I realise, I quote, I realise you were kicking to touch a lot of service plan details, and somebody must have done the sums. For example, the €35 million that has been sought year after year, Minister Lynch, has it been gained this year? Minister Varadkar, the man of the year, intervenes and says, I don't want to give that information yet because it hasn't been quite decided. The dynamic of the figure, well, we're still working on it. Then Minister Lynch interjects to say, but it's not that it's not done. It is done. It's very obviously done. It's just that we haven't done it yet. Minister Varadkar says, well, it's within the range. And Sarah Burke says, what range? We can have the range here now this evening, Minister, can't we? He said, well, no, we can't, because I want to make sure we get the range right. Sarah Burke, quite frankly, says, will the additional €35 million that wasn't spent in 11, 12, 13 and 14 of current expenditure be spent in mental health in 2016? And of course, Minister Kathleen Lynch jumps in to say yes. The commitment in relation to mental health for €35 million, it's there, it's a commitment. Now, this was the end of an exchange. Minister Lynch's commitment in her final comment is a little source of comfort to me, because she failed to protect in 11, 12, 13 and 14 the €35 million. The greatest public health crisis of our generation. More people die dead by suicide in this country than die on our road. And Minister Lynch could not give a straight answer. I mean, to be fair, to credit to the man of the year, he made a greater attempt in being transparent with the status of that €35 million. See, you can smirk at me, you might think it's funny. See, Minister, the progress in filling these posts and the lack of transparency around the application of those posts points directly at the failure of political will in the area of disability and mental health. And a recent response to a parliamentary question that I proposed in this area demonstrates how poor the practice and delivery of service that exists in child and adolescent mental health units. One issue of mental health that overlaps with more than a significant core group in society has emerged under this government has been your failure to deliver mental health care for people who are homeless. It's appalling. The respite of people who die on our streets. And we'll all remember Jonathan Corrie, but do we know any of the 6 names that have died in the meantime? You have successfully managed to normalise how poor things are out there because you believe in austerity.